Have you ever trusted someone so completely that you couldn't imagine they were capable of lying to you? That was me. If someone had told me a year earlier that the man I planned to marry was living two completely different lives, I would have laughed. I would have defended him without hesitation. But the hardest lessons don't come from strangers. They come from the people you love the most. My name is Emma, and this is the story of how I lost everything I believed in, and found something much more valuable, myself. When I first met Daniel, life felt simple. We met by accident in a small neighborhood coffee shop. I had just spilled my drink while rushing to answer a phone call. Before I could even react, someone handed me a stack of napkins. I think your coffee was trying to escape, he joked. I laughed. That tiny moment changed my life. Daniel was kind, patient, and easy to talk to. He remembered little details about me that nobody else noticed. My favorite flowers, the songs I listened to on rainy days, the dream I'd had since childhood of opening a cozy bookstore. He never forgot anything. After months of dating, everyone around us kept saying the same thing. You two are perfect together. Eventually, I believed it too. A year later, we moved into a small apartment filled with secondhand furniture, mismatched dishes, and dreams much bigger than our bank accounts. Those were my favorite days. We cooked dinner together. We danced in the kitchen while waiting for pasta to boil. We planned vacations we couldn't yet afford. Late at night, Daniel would wrap his arm around me and whisper, "One day we'll have everything we've ever wanted." I never questioned him. Why would I? Love teaches you to trust. Sometimes, too much. Months turned into years. Daniel worked hard at a growing marketing company. His long hours didn't bother me at first. I admired his dedication. Whenever he came home exhausted, I had dinner waiting. Whenever he doubted himself, I reminded him how talented he was. When he celebrated success, I celebrated with him. I thought that's what partners did. I didn't realize relationships are supposed to be built by two people, not carried by one. The first crack appeared so quietly that I almost missed it. Daniel started coming home later than usual. Then later still. Soon, working late became almost an everyday sentence. "I'm sorry," he'd say while kissing my forehead. Big project, deadline, important client. His explanations always sounded reasonable, and I never wanted to be the jealous girlfriend. So I smiled and believed him. Then little things started changing. His phone never left his hand. It was always face down. If it buzzed, he'd pick it up instantly. Sometimes he'd even leave the room before answering. Whenever I asked who it was, his answer never changed. Just work. Simple, confident, practiced. One Friday evening I planned a surprise. I ordered his favorite dinner and drove to his office. I imagined the smile on his face when he saw me standing there. Instead, the receptionist frowned. "Daniel," she checked the employee schedule. "He left around 3 this afternoon." I smiled awkwardly. "Oh, maybe another meeting." She shook her head. "I don't think so." A strange feeling settled in my chest. I immediately called Daniel. No answer. 5 minutes later, a text appeared. "Still at work. I'll be home late. Love you." I stared at the screen. For the first time, I knew he was lying. Not because I suspected it. Because I had proof. My hands trembled. My mind searched desperately for another explanation. Maybe he had gone to another office. Maybe he forgot. Maybe. Funny how hope invents excuses even after the truth arrives. That night I didn't argue. I simply watched him. He walked through the front door smiling. Knew you'd still be awake. He kissed my forehead, asked about my day, acted exactly like always, and I realized something frightening. He had become very comfortable lying to me. That realization hurt more than the lie itself. Because lies told without guilt aren't accidents. They're habits. I didn't sleep much that night. Instead, I stared at the ceiling asking myself one impossible question. Was I imagining things, or was the man sleeping beside me becoming someone I no longer knew? The next morning, I acted as if nothing had happened. I made breakfast, poured Daniel his usual coffee, smiled when he smiled. If he was going to keep lying, I wanted him to believe I still trusted him. It wasn't because I enjoyed pretending. It was because I needed the truth more than I needed another argument. As he left for work, he kissed my forehead. "I'll be late again tonight." I nodded. "Good luck with your meeting." He smiled. "Thanks." The front door closed behind him, and the apartment became painfully quiet. For the first time in years, I looked around our home and wondered how much of our life had been real. Had he ever meant the promises? Or had I simply believed what I wanted to hear? Days turned into weeks, and instead of confronting him, I started paying attention. I noticed things I had ignored before. A new expensive watch, designer shirts he never mentioned buying, restaurant charges on our shared bank account from places we had never visited together. He always had an explanation. A client meeting, a work dinner, a company event. Every answer sounded reasonable, but together, they formed a pattern. One evening, Daniel stepped into the shower and left his smartwatch charging on the bedside table. A notification lit up the screen. "Last night was perfect. I already miss you, heart." There was no name, only a heart. My chest tightened. I didn't need to unlock the watch. That single message told me everything. Still, I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't hurting. Because something inside me had changed. I no longer wanted excuses. I wanted answers. That night, I asked him a simple question. "Who's texting you with heart emojis?" For just a second, his smile disappeared. Then it returned. "Oh, that's my cousin. She's always dramatic." He laughed. I forced myself to laugh too. But inside, I realized something important. Honest people answer questions. Liars perform. From that day forward, I stopped listening to his words. I watched his actions instead. A week later, Daniel announced another business trip. 3 days, different city, important meetings. As he packed, I noticed beach clothes, sunglasses, and a camera. Not exactly what someone packs for conference rooms. The moment he drove away, I sat on the couch feeling completely empty. I opened social media without thinking. A suggested profile appeared on my screen. A woman named Olivia. I almost kept scrolling. Then something caught my eye. In one photo, she was smiling at a beautiful seaside restaurant. Across the table sat a man whose face wasn't fully visible, but his watch was. The exact same watch Daniel had bought 2 months earlier. My hands started shaking. I opened the picture, zoomed in. There he was, laughing, holding her hand, looking happier than I'd seen him in months. I couldn't breathe, not because another woman existed, because the smile on his face looked exactly like the one he used to give me. Curiosity pushed me deeper. I visited Olivia's profile. Photo after photo appeared. Weekend trips, coffee dates, sunset walks, holiday celebrations, each one included Daniel. Sometimes his face was hidden. Sometimes it wasn't. The dates broke my heart. Every trip matched a weekend he had told me he was working. Every happy picture replaced a memory I thought belonged to us. The hardest part wasn't seeing another woman. It was reading the captions. So grateful I found someone honest. Can't believe someone like you exists. Forever starts with trust. Those weren't just captions. They were promises. The same promises he once made to me. I expected to hate Olivia. Instead, I felt sorry for her. Because she had no idea I existed. She wasn't stealing my life. She was living the same lie. 2 women, 1 man, 2 different futures, built on the exact same deception. When Daniel returned home 3 days later, he looked relaxed, suntanned, happy. He hugged me like nothing had happened. I missed you. I looked into his eyes. I wondered how someone could say those words so easily after spending an entire weekend building memories with someone else. That evening, after dinner, I quietly placed my phone on the table. The photo of him and Olivia filled the screen. He looked down. The color disappeared from his face. Silence filled the room. Finally, he whispered, "It's not what you think." I almost laughed, because those 5 words had become the most predictable sentence in the world. I looked at him calmly. "Then tell me what I should think." He sat down slowly. His shoulders dropped. "I made a mistake." "A mistake?" I asked quietly. "This has been going on for months." He covered his face with both hands. I didn't know how to end it. "So you decided to lie to both of us instead?" He didn't answer. Instead, the apologies began. "I love you. I never wanted to hurt you. I'll end everything. I'll prove you've always been the only one." Every promise sounded convincing. Every apology sounded sincere. And that made everything even more painful. Because I wanted to believe him. After hours of talking, crying, and silence, I made the decision I would later regret. I gave him one last chance. I believed people could change. I believed love deserved another chance. What I didn't realize was that some people don't change. They simply become better at hiding the truth. For a while, it looked like Daniel had changed. He came home on time. He left his phone on the kitchen counter without hiding it. He planned date nights again. He surprised me with flowers. Every morning he reminded me how much he loved me. Slowly, the walls around my heart began to fall. I wasn't ready to trust him completely, but I wanted to believe the worst was behind us. Friends noticed the difference. "You two seem happy again," they would say. I smiled politely. "Things are getting better." And for a moment, I believed those words. Months passed peacefully. Life felt almost normal. We laughed more, cooked together again, started talking about our future. Daniel even mentioned buying a house. Hearing those dreams again made me feel hopeful. Maybe this nightmare was finally over. Maybe people really could learn from their mistakes. Then, one ordinary Tuesday afternoon, everything changed. My phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. Normally, I ignored calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Something told me to answer. "Hello," a soft voice replied. "Emma." "Yes." There was a long pause. "My name is Olivia." The room suddenly felt very quiet. I sat down without realizing it. "I think we need to talk." The next morning, we met at a quiet cafe across town. I expected anger. Instead, I saw someone who looked just as exhausted as I felt. Olivia wasn't there to argue. She wasn't there to blame me. She looked heartbroken. After a few moments of silence, she spoke. "I ended things with Daniel months ago." I nodded. "I know." She took a deep breath. "But he contacted me again." My heart sank. She opened her phone and slid it across the table. The first message read, "I've been thinking about you every day." Another one followed. "Things are complicated right now, but I still care about you." Then another. "Can we meet one last time?" The dates were recent, very recent. They matched the evenings Daniel had told me he was working late. I kept scrolling. More promises, more excuses, more lies. Only this time, I wasn't shocked. I was disappointed. Not in him, in myself. I had believed his tears, his promises, his apologies. He hadn't changed. He had simply become more careful. Olivia looked at me. "I'm sorry." I shook my head. "You didn't betray me." He did. For the first time, we understood each other. Neither of us had known the full truth. We were both victims of the same lies. We spent hours talking, comparing dates, trips, messages, promises. It became obvious. Daniel hadn't been choosing between 2 women. He had been trying to keep both lives alive. He told each of us we were the only one. He made future plans with both of us. He celebrated birthdays with one, and anniversaries with the other. It was like watching 2 puzzle pieces finally fit together. The picture they formed was painful. When I left the cafe, I didn't cry. I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Clarity. For so long, I had been asking myself what I had done wrong. Now I finally understood. This wasn't about me. It never was. Some people don't lie because someone isn't enough. They lie because honesty would force them to face themselves. That evening, Daniel walked through the front door smiling. "How was your day?" I smiled back. It was eye-opening. He didn't notice anything unusual. He kissed my forehead and started talking about work. I listened quietly, not because I believed him, because I already knew the truth. That night, while he slept peacefully beside me, I stared out the window. I wasn't planning a dramatic confrontation. I wasn't interested in shouting a revenge fueled by anger. I wanted something much simpler. The truth. No exaggeration, no games, no lies, just facts. I opened a notebook and wrote one sentence at the top of the page. "Truth doesn't need to be loud to change everything." That sentence became my plan. Over the next few weeks, I carefully organized everything. Travel dates, receipts, messages, photos, timelines. Nothing was edited. Nothing was taken out of context. Every piece fit together like chapters of the same story. The more evidence I collected, the calmer I became. Because I realized something important. I didn't need to destroy Daniel's reputation. His own choices had already done that. All I had to do was stop protecting the lies. One evening, Daniel excitedly told me he had been promoted. His company was hosting a celebration. Friends, coworkers, and family would all be there. "You'll come, right?" he asked. I smiled gently. "Of course." As he walked away to answer another phone call, I looked at the folder resting inside my desk drawer. Everything I needed was already there. For months, Daniel had controlled the story. Very soon, the truth would speak for itself. The night of Daniel's promotion party arrived faster than I expected. The event was held in a beautiful hotel ballroom. Soft music played in the background as coworkers, friends, and family laughed together. Everyone congratulated Daniel on his success. Watching him smile so confidently felt strange. He looked exactly like the man I had fallen in love with, but I now knew that image wasn't the whole truth. Daniel walked over and wrapped an arm around my shoulder. "I'm glad you're here," he said. I smiled politely. I wouldn't have missed it. As the evening continued, people shared stories about Daniel's hard work and dedication. Then his manager stepped onto the stage. "We're proud to celebrate someone we trust completely. Daniel has shown honesty, commitment, and leadership." The room filled with applause. I looked down for a moment. The word honesty echoed in my mind. A few minutes later, Daniel was invited to say a few words. He thanked everyone for supporting him through difficult times. Then he looked at me. "And most importantly, I'd like to thank Emma. She stood by me through everything." People smiled. Some even clapped again. For a second, I almost believed the moment myself. Then I remembered the messages, the promises, the second chances, the lies. After the speech, guests gathered around Daniel to congratulate him. When the crowd finally settled, I walked over carrying a simple folder. My hands weren't shaking anymore. I felt calm, not because I wanted revenge, because I no longer wanted to carry someone else's secret. I looked at Daniel. "I think everyone deserves to know the full story." His smile disappeared. "What are you talking about?" I quietly placed the folder on a nearby table. Inside was a clear timeline. Dates, messages, photos, travel confirmations. Nothing dramatic, nothing exaggerated, just facts. Several people nearby looked down at the pages. The room slowly became quieter. Someone whispered, "These dates don't make sense." Another person turned another page. Daniel's face turned pale. He reached for the folder. "Emma, please." I gently moved it back. "No, you've had plenty of chances to tell the truth." One of his coworkers looked confused. "Daniel, is this real?" Silence. Daniel opened his mouth, closed it again. He searched for words that never came. For months, he had always found the perfect explanation. This time, there wasn't one. No shouting, no scene, only silence. And somehow, that silence said everything. One by one, people stepped away. Not because I had asked them to. Because they had seen enough. Daniel looked at me with tears in his eyes. "I'm sorry." I nodded. "I believe you're sorry. But being sorry doesn't erase what happened." He lowered his head. "I've lost everything." I looked at him for a long moment. "No, you lost everything the moment you chose dishonesty." I just stopped hiding it. Those were the last words I said to him that night. I walked out of the ballroom feeling lighter than I had in years. Not because I had embarrassed someone. Because I had finally stopped carrying the weight of someone else's lies. A new beginning. The weeks that followed weren't easy. Moving into a new apartment felt lonely. There were evenings when the silence seemed overwhelming. Sometimes I reached for my phone, wanting to tell Daniel about my day. Then I remembered, the person I missed wasn't real. He was the version of Daniel I had believed in. Healing wasn't quick. Some mornings still hurt. Some memories still made me smile before they made me sad. But little by little, life became peaceful again. I spent more time with friends. I visited my parents more often. I started reading books I had ignored for years. Most importantly, I finally chased the dream I had put aside. The small bookstore. It wasn't huge. It wasn't fancy. But every shelf, every chair, every cup of coffee served inside reminded me of something important. This life was mine, built on honesty, not promises. Months later, the bookstore became a favorite place in the neighborhood. People came for books, stayed for conversations, and somehow, helping strangers discover new stories helped me write a better ending to my own. One rainy afternoon, nearly a year later, I saw Daniel walking down the street. He noticed me too. For a brief moment, our eyes met. He looked older, quieter, as if life had taught him lessons he never expected to learn. He slowly walked toward me. "I heard about your bookstore," he said softly. I smiled. "It's doing well." He nodded. "I'm happy for you." There was another long silence. Finally, he asked, "Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" I looked at the bookstore behind me. Then back at him. "I already have." His eyes widened. "But forgiveness doesn't always mean another chance." He nodded slowly. "I understand." For the first time, I believed he truly did. He wished me well and walked away. I watched him disappear into the crowd. There was no anger left. No desire for revenge. Only peace. Final reflection. Looking back, people often ask if exposing Daniel was my revenge. I always give the same answer. No, the truth was never revenge. It was freedom. Real revenge isn't about making someone suffer. It's about refusing to let their choices define your future. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't to fight back. It's to walk away with your dignity, rebuild your life, and become happier than you ever imagined. Because in the end, the greatest victory wasn't that Daniel lost his perfect image. It was that I finally found the courage to stop living inside someone else's lie. The end.